I have finally discovered the best digital painting app for realistic, traditional textures. Today we are reviewing Rebelle 7, a painting software available in Windows and Mac with an amazingly simple UI and mind-blowing textures. It costs $89.99 USD and $149.99 USD for the Pro version, and you can get them through the link in the description here. You can also download the free version to try out first. I've tried many art apps. I've actually started painting digitally a long time ago in Corel Painter, and then now I primarily use Procreate to paint my paintings. Today we will look at the native brushes in Rebelle 7 and how easy it is to work in this app in order to simulate the medium that you want in digital space. Then we will cover a quick time lapse of me painting a portrait in Rebelle 7 Pro. First of all, you'll be happy to know that you can open PSD files within Rebelle 7. So immediately once you have launched the software, the first thing that you will see is the canvas size, where you will pick a canvas size that you want to use and the paper that you want to use as well. So now let's take a look at the UI. So on the left we have tools and brushes here right on top, and in the brushes we have oils, express oils, watercolor, ink, pencil, pastel, markers, and sprays. Now, whenever you pick a brush category, it will automatically change the properties of what's available to you. And right down here, if you change the brush category, it will also change the set of brushes that are available for each category. So for example, oils have grunge and knives, and also flat and rounds. Watercolor has watercolor within it, gouache, sumi-e for Chinese ink, and pastels has dry and oily ones. Pretty straightforward so far, and it's pretty simple to use. So now we move on to the right side, and right on top we see a tilt icon here, and we will explore this later on. Then right down here we have our color palettes and swatches, where you can explore the history of your past swatches and also pick colors here. Then just like in Photoshop, right at the bottom you have your layers, which you will also control your canvas type and the paper type that you want. Then if you have purchased the Pro version, you get to have this little paint tube icon here, and if you press on it, it will just activate pigments for you. Now there's a very important icon here in the layers panel, which is this button here. This will actually open up the visual settings, and this is where you can control all your properties for watercolor, oils, canvas, and metallic textures if you have the Pro version. So we'll be using this panel a lot in today's review, so make sure you open this. Next, we're going to look at watercolor brushes. So I've moved the menus over here already, so I'm just going to pick the watercolor. And the first thing I want to do is to set the diffusion speed to be 10. So this is going to make the animation for the watercolor quicker. And if we look down here on the canvas, we can just click on it and tap on Aquarelle to pick a watercolor paper. Okay, I'm just going to quickly pick a brush, and if I paint on it, you can see that the animation has started already, and it's starting to bloom and to drip and to also dry. So we know that we can adjust the diffusion speed. So if I set it to low, it's going to be a lot slower. So if I put it to 10, it's going to be really quick. So for example, if I paint something and I want the animation to stop, I can just press D in order to stop it. So I'm just going to wait a little bit. Okay, I'm going to press D, and now yes, stopped. So you can see here at the layers that it says pause diffusion. And if I press D again, it's going to continue flowing. So if I want it to stop at any time, I can just dry the layer, and this should stop it. Yeah. If I go here to the water tool, you can see here, I can just tap on W to go into the water tool. You can see that the blotch has become blue. So this means that it's wet. I can actually paint another blob here. So this is another water splotch that I've painted. So now I can go to B to get out of that tool. But I know that at that spot, there's water, right? So if I paint over the area that has the water before, because this was the water patch that I had before, and it's reacting accordingly. So you can add water using W. So let's go back into W, and I'm just going to paint water inside here, and if I get out, I can see that it's reacting. So what is happening, I'm creating like bleeds inside here. So let's create another one. So of course you can adjust the darkening and how it all looks like in the visual settings. So let's say, for example, I want to paint a sunset. Okay, I would go into the water tool. I'm just going to paint the sky wet, and I'm gonna go out red and orange and all the way yellow. And if I tap on W, I can see that there's still water there, so it's still animating, and I can keep layering while it's animating. If I paint something dry over it, so it's still gonna react, but it's gonna be less. Okay, so right now I want to talk about how to get drips. Make sure that I have a lot of water. So like you see here, I'm using gouache filbert. It was the dry brush before, and there's not a lot of water in it. So I'm just going to use any watercolor brush. You can see that the water amount is a lot already. And when I paint over, now that I've painted over, it's going to start to react. I'm going to go over the tilt and point downwards. What this does is basically tilting the canvas to point down, and that's why it's dripping that side. So if I point to the right side, it's going to drip towards the right, and if I point here, it's going to start dripping down. Now I want to talk about blow, and let's say I want a sun to have rays, right? So I'm just going to go to the left and click on the blow button, and I'm just going to blow. Swipe the direction that I want to blow, and you can see that it's starting to smear out. Yep, it's even creating like some splays out here. So these are really cool effects that is so super cool. And you see when I press undo, it's doing it stage by stage, so you can just stop at any time. Let's say you want this effect, and you can just click pause or D and then fast dry. So when you unpause, you have like this state here saved for you already, exactly how you want it. Now let's talk about the visual settings. If you look here, I have drips turned on, and that's why I had drips just now. You can adjust the size yourself here. And then we have granulation. So there's like 3 types of granulation. So this is granulation 1. Granulation 2 is going to look like this. Granulation 3 is going to look like this. So it's basically just different textures of how it's gonna look like with the grain and the paper. Okay, now let's talk about the watercolor properties. So in any brushes properties, you can see that there are these tools, okay? So we have the paint tool, which is just painting colors, and then we have paint and mix, which means that if we paint over, we are essentially mixing the paint. Then we have paint and blend. It doesn't really optical mix, but it blends instead. Then we have a blend only tool, which doesn't really react with water. Then we have the erase tool. So the erase tool doesn't really bloom unless like we add water. If we add water in it, then it starts to bloom. When it comes to mixing, we can actually specify even more. If you look here, we have 3 types of blending modes. So we have transparent, and with semi-transparent, and with opaque. Okay, so on the left is transparent, and on the right is opaque. So you can actually like decide what mixing mode that you want to use for your watercolor. Okay, we are going to open up stencils, pick the leaf, and then I can move it. And right now I'm just going to pick blue and paint all over it. And once I paint all over it, if I push the handle away, you can see that I've just used a stencil to stencil a shape, and it's also reacting with the water. Now let's turn on structures so I can move it. Anyway, this structure thing works better in watercolor than other brushes, but you might have to try. So I'm just going to paint over it like this. Okay, some time has passed, and I'm going to turn off the structure right now, and you can see that there's a texture here imprinted onto it. So you can use this to leave imprints as well. Alright, now if we look at our layers, we have something called M, which is masking fluid layer. So let's say I have layer 1. I'm going to use black and write something there. Now we are going to create another layer. And go back to the first layer with the hello word there and turn on mask. Then in layer 2, we are going to wet the area. And now get out, and then we're going to paint something with a lot of water. Okay, the key is you can't actually paint over the words. It's odd. You gotta let the water do the job for you. Okay, you see if I turn off the masking, you can see that the masking is still working. It's resisting the paint. So you gotta use the wet on wet for this thing, and if you paint over it, it's not gonna react to the masking layer. What happens if we mix something else inside here? If we want something to resist, we would use a oil pastel or wax pastels. A, B, C, D, E, F. And I'm just going to go back to watercolor and see if it reacts. Okay, so you can see that the wax crayon is actually resisting the watercolor just like in real life. How freaking cool is that? So now let's try pastels. We'll paint over it again with watercolor and see if it resists. It does. Okay, cool. Isn't this amazing? Just being able to like gel every single medium together and see how they interact with each other. It's so amazing. Now I'm gonna quickly go over to oils. So in oils, we can get easy in pastel, right? Now look what happens if I paint watercolor on top. You can see that it's actually freaking starts to react. And not only that, it's also affecting the textures as well. And it's giving like a glossy drip right now for the oils. I piled up so many layers of oil and watercolor. The drips are starting to form a texture. So think of all the mixed media possibilities with this app. Okay, now that we have explored watercolor, it's time to explore oil and acrylics. So we have two genres to look at. If we look at express oil, you can see here in the properties we just have the same 5 tools. But if we look at oils and acrylics, we have 2 different modes here. Express oils does not have texture. It does not have any impasto. It is all flat. And if you add water to it, it will react. Even if I use pencil, it's gonna react with the water. So it reacts with everything. Just bear in mind, you can like add water to practically anything. Now we're going to go over to the real oil and acrylic brushes. So you can control the texture in the visual setting here. I can also increase gloss. That's also one more thing I can do. Make use of the metallic materials if you are on Rebelle 7 Pro. So by going to the layers, and then you see this diamond button here, tap on it, and you can see it's going to be insanely reflective. So you can adjust like how it looks and how it's facing. So in canvas visibility, we have something called nanopixel. This is actually going to like let you simulate the reflectiveness when you are painting. It's using your GPU to simulate that. Okay, I'm going to disable everything here and just leave paint mode on. So with paint mode, every time I paint, it is just laying on top of each other. If I use paint and mix, when I paint and when I use less pressure, it's gonna start to mix. If I use paint and blend, it's going to start to blend as well if I use less pressure. So that's an easy way to really work with blending here. So I'm just going to go over to Edit, Preferences, and here we're going to go right into Tools, and then I'm going to check this. Automatically switch to Blend mode after using Paint, Paint and Mix, or Paint and Blend mode. So back to the filbert brush, we can easily access the tools by holding 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I'm just going to click back to 2 to drop in my pink again. And you can see that immediately when I let go, it's going to immediately automatically go to the blend mode. So I'm not going to blend right now. So I'm just going to hit 2 and go back to the paint and mix mode. Then I'm going to paint the red in and slowly blend it out. You can see that when I slowly blend out, it automatically switched to the blend mode already on the tool side. Yeah, and I can keep doing the same thing. It's just that every time you let go, it will automatically like change to the blend mode, and it will not get out of the blend mode until you either pick another color or you hit the hotkeys for 1 and 2 to get to the paint or the paint and blend mode. For now, I'm just going to turn that off. And we're going to look at these two features here. So first we have multicolor brush. If I have two colors, it's going to start mixing. And if I pick another color again, it's going to mix with the previous color. And if I pick another color again, it's going to mix with the previous color. So you can get out the multicolor tool by tapping alternate M, and then you're out of it, you're using one color again. A feature that I really like is this one, dirty brush. So dirty brush works very similar to how traditional media works in oils. Okay, so now I'm going to pick yellow, and you see that when I paint over red, I'm actually picking some red, and when I paint again, it will not be the usual yellow. You see, it's a different yellow, and I'm going to linger at blue. So now I have a lot of blue in my brush, even though in my picker it's actually still yellow. And if I just want to reset back to yellow, I can just clean my brush by tapping C. And now I have a clean brush painting yellow again. So this is an ability that I really like in Rebelle 7, which is the dirty brush setting. And I think that it's really easy to just simulate how traditional artists paint. And now I'm just going to quickly share my time lapse of a painting that I've done using Rebelle 7 to test out the app. So I'm going to start a new artwork, and I'm going to pick the size I want, and the canvas, I'm going to set it to canvas. And then the first thing that I want to talk about is how to get your image up there, right? In reference image, I can just right click and paste image from clipboard, and then I can just double click on it and it will appear in another window right here. Then I can actually use guides. So I'm just gonna create more guides, and you can see here as I create them, they appear on the canvas. So it's automatically like scaled here already. If you click on transform image on canvas, you can easily just transform like the relation of the reference to your canvas. So using reference image and guides, it was pretty easy to sketch the portrait out using a brush from the pencil category, and really loving the guides feature so far. And now here I've clearly numbered the parts that I want to have impasto in. Now we're going to start painting. And the first thing we're going to do is to apply watercolor washes to get started with the abstract shapes in the painting. And this will be the first impasto that I will be painting in this portrait. So I'm just going to overlay with some transparent glazes and then outline it with some pencil. Already I'm loving the mixed media thing that I have going on here. Now I'm going to do some watercolor drips with the tilt feature. Just look at it bloom and drip, it's really cool. And now to get started with the portrait, I'm just going to scumble some black using express oils to quickly sketch in the shape of the body first. And then blending it outwards onto the red strokes, I'm just going to overlay a small shape to indicate that there is an overlap here. Now for the second impasto, I have learned how to improve them already. So I find that it's easier to just continuously slap impasto on top of each other, and then using the system blend tool, not the brush blend tool. I use the system blend tool to smooth out the texture and to carve out and sculpt the shape a little bit more. So under the blend tool, I'm actually using the hard brush for this. And you see that I'm leaving paper textures at the trail end. If you don't want the paper texture, you can actually just go over to your layer setting, and for your canvas type, just choose a flat white, and then you wouldn't have any canvas texture showing through. I'm having so much fun creating abstract shapes with watercolor and mixed media and dry media. I can literally like try anything. Now it's time for some regular painting. So I don't want any impasto, so I'm just going to use the express oils first to quickly block in the shapes. I find that it's more difficult to blend compared to using the regular oils brush category, and I can't seem to get a hang of how the tilt is being programmed for this app. Maybe it's just me because I don't really paint very well on desktop. But I'm using a palette knife here and it's a hit and miss with the tilt. It takes time, but I can tell that I'm getting better, but when it works, it looks beautiful. So I've resorted to just using the regular oils to paint because it's easier to blend, and I'm just going to use the visual settings and turn down the impasto depth for that. But if I were to redo this painting, I think I would definitely reduce the canvas texture quite a bit. And now finally, I'm ready to add more impasto and clean up with the System Blend tool again. So at the end of the session, I will actually go over the entire background again with impasto, because the background is done with watercolor. I don't want it to look so flat, so I'm just going to quickly leave some impasto here and there and have some parts of the watercolor showing in order to have a contrast in texture. So this looks really organic and it looks very traditional and digital at the same time. It's really cool. I recommend that you really check this app out and try it out for yourself. I was actually really astonished that I could just jump into the app and start painting immediately without having a learning curve at all. And when I was creating this review, I actually did spend like an hour on the manual to learn about the other things like Stencils Structures, but it's an easy read. What I wish that they should have is in the brush creator, usually we have settings for pen pressure and also for speed, like if we move faster the strokes gets thinner and things like that. I wish they have a settings for speed. That's all I want. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of this review. Again, this is the link to the download if you want to try out Rebelle 7. And let me know in the comments if you have any question or what you think about this app in general, or if you have any questions regarding digital painting. Also remember to like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.